Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am joined today, and I think I'm going to put you up on Easter Sunday just to really mess with people's minds. I am joined today by nutritional therapist extraordinaire, Ian Marber. Thank you for coming in.
It's my pleasure. I've been looking forward to this.
I would also like to say that I do sound like Stevie Nicks on a good day in the 70s. I'm getting rid of a bit of laryngitis. I don't feel ill at all. I just had no voice for 3 days. Some people called that peace and quiet for the family, but we'll move swiftly on. So I'm not trying to be croaky and sexy. You're just going to have to try and manage it. Okay, people? Now, Ian, I asked on Twitter lots of questions from you guys. If you could ask one of the world's top nutritionists, what would you ask? But before we do that, brace yourself.
Yeah.
He hasn't seen the questions, by the way. Give us a little background on you and where you've come from and what it means to be a nutritionist.
I studied at the Institute for Optimum Nutrition in 1996 and I qualified in 1999. And almost immediately afterwards I published my first book, which was a bit cheeky. I don't know how that happened really, but I'm very pleased it did, because on the back of that we started a company called The Food Doctor, which was one of the earliest brands to actually give a sort of named, a brand identity to healthy food. Had professional services, and we went on to produce a sort of range of foods. I think there were 50 or 60 at one point.
There was a lot. I used to buy them.
And they were in sort of Tesco's, Waitrose, Sainsbury's, Whole Foods, etc. I left. I wrote 12 books in that period.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you could have made a bit of an effort.
I know. And I left. I sold the company beginning of 2012. Wow. So amazingly, it's 6 years ago, and since then I've been happily independent. I've written other books. I do corporate work for other businesses. Did a range of smoothies for Innocent, or rather worked on a range of smoothies. I'm a director and a founder of an organic food company in India who are moving into the UK and to the United States. So lots of different things. It's much more varied than it was. I don't see that many private clients, but I do see a handful here and there.
And you still get the odd random text from strange people saying, what does this mean if I do this? Can I do that? And you go, no.
No, I don't. Genuinely, what I like about not doing personal consulting is that it gives me the time to actually do the other things. So the corporate work is more important, not more important, but it's certainly more lucrative, and it's more varied. And also, you know, I think I did 6,000 consultations over the years, so I kind of feel I've not done it, but I've...
It's a lot.
I mean, like, you always learn from every single one, so I'm not being cavalier about it, but I learned what I wanted to learn, and now I do more corporate stuff, which is, it's different. I can't do that forever.
I just did a video for Murad.
Yes.
And one of their lines on the, when I was doing research on him, because I knew about the brand, but Dr. Murad has seen over 50,000 patients in his career, and interestingly, he was a medic in the Vietnam War, and it was what he saw in the war that made him come home and just do dermatology. He couldn't do it anymore. It was amazing, amazing background.
I don't know that seeing clients who are bloated actually puts me in the same category.
No. Can you help me with my IBS?
Yeah, well, no, what's interesting was that when I was doing it, it was actually not quite pre-internet, but it was certainly pre-social media. So you didn't have those social media voices
Trends.
And stars, if you like, who muddied the waters.
Well, coming on to that.
Oh, okay.
Let's wait, because I have already seen a couple of questions, and I have my own.
Okay.
So, in terms of day to day, the first thing I thought of, and I actually asked you this question when we had lunch, and when you said the answer, I was like, don't ask him any more questions, save it for the video. Let's assume a normal woman my age, I say normal not as an insult, people, a woman my age, so perimenopausal, obviously.
Yeah.
Borderline.
Yes, obviously. I mean,
it's okay. Borderline psychotic. The way I say it to my viewers when I'm doing a skincare video is I'm closer to the age I started I'm finishing my periods than the age I started. Right? What three, if you could cherry pick, what 3 supplements should I be taking?
Well, first of all, nearly everyone should be taking vitamin D.
Yep.
Vitamin D3. Most people probably, and it's not for definite, need an omega-3.
Yeah.
And there is, you might want to look at a mineral simply for bone health, but it depends on your dairy intake, it depends on lots of other factors. I have strong opinions about supplements, and I don't necessarily think that there are 3 that we have to be taking.
Wicked.
The idea that we all need supplements is sold to us partly by the people that make
Supplement
supplements.
company,
And also when you focus in on one element of diet, one nutrient, etc., there's always a reason. You could look up, you could do a Google search for, you know, do I need to take magnesium? And I guarantee by the end of the first page, you'll be convinced you need to take magnesium, and so you'll order some. Do the same for calcium, zinc, selenium, iodine. There's a reason to take every single one, but the problem is that we've separated out the identity of the supplements and the nutrients that are in the bottles compared to the nutrients that are in food. Almost they become separate things. One comes from food and one comes from supplements. And often a client will say to me, or on Twitter, or on Instagram, etc., I'm taking omega-3 and I take sort of 3,000 milligrams a day. 3,000, do I need that? And you look at their diet, they're actually having oily fish 4 or 5 times a week. The answer is they don't necessarily need it. You then may look and in fact they're taking an aspirin on the advice of their cardiologist, and of course you shouldn't be taking aspirin and omega-3. They have similar effect on blood viscosity. So there's lots of other elements you have to look in, and this is where nutrition becomes responsible. And I think that given what we've been through in the last few years as far as social media stars, they haven't been irresponsible. They just don't know the enormity of what they're saying.
Okay, so let's touch on that one.
Okay.
Let's go down the Instagram road. So there are so many trends now, and you're welcome. Here's our sirens again. There are so many trends now in nutrition that you can see from a mile away are being capitalised on, and people are charging money to make money off the back of people's insecurities, is how I see it.
It's not just insecurities, they're aspirations as well.
Okay, good point. Where do you stand on how do you know if you're just a person at home who's on social media, how do you know if something is a trend and whether something has gravity and will be good for you in the long term? How do you navigate that minefield?
I think the first thing to ask is, are you being charged something? Because that doesn't mean people don't have a right to charge, but it's information, and people have studied for a long time to acquire this information, and if it was a lawyer, you would know that you have to pay. But the problem is, because we all eat, a lot of people believe that nutrition and nutrition information is free because we all have an opinion about it. If we look at who to trust, that's a slightly different question, but someone who's a dietitian, a nutritionist, or a nutrition therapist, the former, the dietitians, they have a protected title. The other two don't. And that's the problem, is that even if that individual may not call themselves a nutritionist, they're often called nutritionists by the press. So the moment they have any sort of press presence, then they may be mislabeled. I'm not sure I believe this, but somebody once, I was at a morning's get-together at a PR company talking about social media, and one of the people on the panel said, and I think this is really clever, if the person you're talking to, if they have a PR or a publicist, that's when you have to be slightly careful. Having an agent is quite different. I'm not sure how you'd find that out, mind you, but you're having a PR
if you're someone in my position, you can find out easily, but not if you're navigating the aisles at the supermarket and you think, do I need a supplement? What's going to be better?
Well, the other thing is that if you look at, let's say, the alkaline diet, which is sort of rubbish, I mean, it can't be anything else. It's biochemically impossible, and it's peddled by people who don't really know. So, bless them. Maybe they try, maybe they have another agenda, I don't know.
I wouldn't always say bless them. Okay, a lot of them are charlatans.
And a lot of them are misguided.
Yeah, well-intentioned but misguided.
And perhaps they've been misled themselves and they've stupidly believed something and then parroted it.
So the alkaline diet is...
Yeah, you can't change the pH of your body through food, you just can't. You can by either vomiting a lot or hyperventilating a lot and then only briefly. So,
and neither of those are viable options.
You can't do it with, I don't know, eating cucumber or whatever you're supposed to do. So if you look at the claims of the alkaline diet, weight loss, clear skin, better sleep, better mood, who wouldn't want those? So if you are looking online for skin problems, you might come across someone like yourself, etc., but you will also come across people who are giving advice about skincare and then you look at it and you go, oh, it kind of makes sense, really, I'll follow that. So you don't know that you've been misled.
Right.
And you are sometimes being misled by someone who knows what they're doing, i.e. they know they're misleading you, that they have a financial interest in this. Other times you're being misled by, it's the blind leading the blind. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's stay on that for a minute then. Ketone diet.
Ketone diet, yes. The ketone diet is, in theory, the idea that you are reducing your glucose made from food, which generally comes from carbohydrates, and you're forcing your body to make ketones, which is a secondary source of fuel, and it comes from fat and protein. The problem about the ketone diet or the paleo diet or all these diets is that all diets work. There is an opportunity cost, sometimes a personal cost to do with your social life, your breath, if it comes to having a very high protein diet. There may be a cost to it that you're unaware of, but you will lose weight. Truth is that if you and I put out got a PR company to PR our diet, which meant you had to eat facing north-northwest, lifting your left foot off the ground by 1 inch and only eating foods that didn't have the letter W in it. Well, I mean, something mad like that. I promise you, if we did it, people would come off autopilot about eating. They'd have a theme, and now they will eat according to your theme and they will lose weight. That doesn't mean that diets don't have validity and it's not worth losing weight at sometimes. Of course it is. But remember that all diets work. It's the normal eating you have to get right. So if you undertake a diet that is so far away from your normal eating, then the moment you go back to normal eating, of course you gain the weight back. And you will gain more because your set point changes, your metabolism responds. It's disappointing. The diet industry, I always wonder which should be called that. The idea that people are, there's a sort of conference of people, the locked door and darkened windows. Hee hee, what can we do today? But as if we're one conglomerate. It's not like that at all. The diet industry is the perfect industry because it wins all the time. If you lose weight, it's because the diet's good. If you fail, it's because you are stupid, not you. But one, you didn't do it. If only you'd stuck to it. And so it's riddled with guilt, aspiration,
That's how they make their money.
But again, it's not a conglomerate of people sitting around laughing as we all get on our private jets to the Maldives.
That would be nice.
Wouldn't it? You can come.
Not doing on the back of people's
actual
medical needs, though.
No.
Okay, so we'll go to the questions. Yes. And the very first question that came in caught both of our attention. So, and I read this out as you were walking into the office, so you've had this one, he hasn't had the others. Why do some people in their field, meaning a nutritionist field, feel it's okay to peddle so much harmful pseudoscience?
First of all, we'll have to question what field, because some people aren't in the same field. I've got a theory about this, and it's financial. It's all to do with having a theory or something that you can own. So let's say, for instance, you're a nutrition therapist, nutritionist, and you want to make your mark. And you get interviewed for the newspaper. The Mail will call you up and want to ask you a question. If you just give the same old advice, which is the truth and everything else, so you may find that you are tempted to play up a certain angle, a certain element, and you focus in on an area of nutrition. Then you write a book about it. Obviously, it's a bit of a leap. But it kind of becomes your calling card to focus really on one element.
Right.
And so I think people do it for commercial reasons. I often think they don't know that they're doing it. Are they peddling pseudoscience? Some absolutely are. I mean, I am horrified when I look at even nutrition therapists, the people who have the same training that I do, when I see them talking about the alkaline diet.
Right.
Because I'm thinking, you can't possibly believe this. And if you do, you shouldn't be practicing.
Right.
I think that the professions like dietitians who are very tightly monitored, hence a protected title, rarely step out of line because they have guidelines, quite strict guidelines. I think when you're in a profession that doesn't have ongoing supervision and doesn't have peer intervention, because a lot of nutritionists or people who say they're nutritionists or nutrition therapists or people who studied that place in New York, which is an online course, and then call themselves health coaches, a lot of them don't know that what they're being taught is stupid.
Right.
For instance, the online one course, a famous one that a lot of people do online and call themselves a health coach, has a module about why you shouldn't be eating gluten. Well, that's not really critical thinking, is it?
No.
I mean, they tell you not to have gluten rather than saying, here's the critical thinking about, it affects some people, not many, etc. So automatically, if you lap it all up, you will then regurgitate, you shouldn't be eating gluten. And it becomes fact almost because of the myth. Just because it's said. And of course, a lot of people say it, then it's oft spoken. And then if people like me boringly say, well, actually only people with celiac disease, etc., and then there's non-celiac gluten sensitivity, which has been questioned quite a lot. When all of this is brought up, we're seen as stick in the mud, not progressive, not cutting edge.
Oh, that's a way to shut you up. I get that with skincare.
Do you? What do you know?
I get, well, you wouldn't know about that. Or, because we're in a similar industry in that ours is also unregulated to a degree.
Yeah.
Because although we have to pass exams, the exams are different worldwide.
Yeah.
And there's no sort of one legislative body. Now, there's a lot of us in the industry championing that. We want that so that technically I could give Botox.
Really?
Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Why would you want me to do your Botox? That's not what my skill is. I'm not a doctor or a nurse. I don't know no, I'm not going to put a needle in someone, but there are people who will do it.
But it's interesting
because they've had training.
I know people with my training, nutrition therapists. I know people who are health coaches who say, I'm seeing a patient this afternoon. No, you're not. You don't have patients.
Yeah.
You're seeing a client.
You're seeing a client.
And by medicalising it that way,
yeah.
you may feel good about yourself and you may add some sort of legitimacy to your consultation. But you're actually...
Don't beat yourself up, mate.
It won't last long. Just another a note on that is that when people... Sometimes it's ego. Sometimes it's ego that makes people peddle pseudoscience because they feel important. And again, they should know better. But I do look at some of the more prominent ones. Not so much prominent now, but maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And they used to get under my skin. But I kind of knew that they weren't bad people. They just didn't know what they were. The Dunning-Kruger effect. Right. In other words, that you don't know that you don't know.
Yeah.
So therefore, you keep talking because you don't know that you don't.
But then, like you say, when you pull someone up on something they don't know, you're the one who's negative.
Well, you're being negative. My favourite one is, well, my research says. And you go, you mean Google? So, and the thing about whether it's Google or proper critical research is that if you start off an opinion, i.e. gluten is bad, you will find research to support that. But if you actually have an open mind, you will minimise cherry picking, which it's like you're drawn to opinions you already have, and that's when you should actually flag up to yourself, hang on, I'm really drawn to that. Do I have a pre-existing opinion that I really need to keep in check?
But that's very rare on social media, let's face it.
That's not what social media is for.
No, but that's what it's used for by people who are maybe not as ethically minded as some.
Yes.
Okay, any advice on how, and I'm going to be random, so we'll be skipping in and out. I also just want to say, Ian and I met, we had met on Twitter, funnily enough, but we have lots of mutual friends. Ian is not the nutritionist I saw with my current weight loss scenario, and I kind of come to that when I come to it, but from my point of view, I wanted to bring you on board because you don't advocate doing one particular thing. And when I reached out, oh my God, I reached out to Ian on Twitter and said, can I ask you a question? And I asked him a question about what I was doing, and your response to me, I was like, oh, we're going to be mates. Because Ian said, what you're doing is working because you are on a diet and you are sticking to it. And it was perfection because I knew that, and I knew going into it that that's what I was doing, and I absolutely had the mindset. So I'll put more below about mine. I haven't really done anything online about it yet, but I've lost weight in the last year, which you'll see if you see some of my old videos.
Can I just add one thing there? That
yes.
However one loses weight and you lose weight, you have to make sure that your nutritional needs are met and your nutritional status is not compromised by it.
Yes.
And that's the really hard part.
Yes, I was eating everything.
It wasn't directed at you.
No, I'm just saying so they know.
Yes.
It wasn't anything fandangled. I was eating. Okay, but again, I will come to it. And I know it's difficult when I keep saying I will come to it, but it's so strange because opening yourself up to talking about food and diet, as soon as you say the word diet, people assume you want to lose weight. That's number one. And I've never had more empathy for people who are in the body positive movement, whether that is people who are genetically underweight or people who are overweight, because as soon as I started losing weight, it's all people could talk about.
Interesting, isn't it?
It's all people could talk about. Oh, you've lost weight, you look great.
But there's the holy grail of dieting, which is you look a bit gaunt. Which is when people...
Oh, you look a bit gaunt, do I? I'm not going down that road. So
worse thing, then you're going to have your hair cut or something, and the hairdresser says to you when you've gained weight, you look well.
So
going away.
I will do my sort of, I don't know how I'm going to talk about what I was doing, and it's nothing especially, but Ian was right. I just ate less crap is pretty much number one. And it started last Lent, that's why it's in my mind now. Last Lent, for a joke, I gave up crisps and lost nearly a stone.
You were eating a lot of crisps.
I was eating a lot of crisps. To be fair, I think that made me, like you say, that made me more mindful of what else I was eating. So I think it was a knock-on effect. But anyway, not talking about me. Okay. So Twitter, and there's loads of good ones, and I'm going to touch on all the ones that are either really key or viral or trendy. Okay. As well as Dom Rocks. Any advice on how to manage Hashimoto's would be fabulous, please.
Hashimoto's is effectively low thyroid, so poor functioning thyroid gland. There are lots of elements. The 3 nutrients you need to focus on are selenium, zinc, and I've gone blank on the other, I think it's iron. But selenium, zinc are key. Zinc you'll find in chicken, you will find it in poultry, you're going to find it in seafood. You'll find it to a degree in nuts and seeds. Selenium is more difficult to find, again in seafood and in Brazil nuts.
Should you supplement?
Do you know, on rare occasions that you should supplement, and I think that I obviously don't know if whoever it is taking medication. So they may be taking thyroxine, levothyroxine, in which case they need to check with their GP.
Obviously, always check. Anything we say, check with your GP.
And some people say, oh, my GP won't know. Well, your GP does know.
Yeah.
Your GP
That's why they're called general practitioners.
And you may go and see them and they don't necessarily think it's a good idea, but take that on board.
Yeah.
If you are going to supplement with zinc, you need no more than 45 milligrams a day, and even that's high.
Okay.
You really should go for about 15 milligrams a day, no more than that.
Chelated zinc?
Zinc citrate is fine, but if you're taking a multivitamin or mineral, check how much zinc is in there.
So you don't know.
Selenium, harder to find. Don't overdose on it. You can get excess selenium, but it's pretty rare. If you don't see your GP, and in fact, even if you do, make an appointment, see a nutrition therapist, a nutritionist, a dietitian, anyone who knows what they're talking about. Because what you spend on the consultation are just a one-off, and I've done it many times for people who come in with armfuls, you will save significantly over the next 2 years on not wasting your money.
Perfect. Okay, straight into it. How bad is dairy really? And if we're not intolerant, how much is a suggested daily amount? Also, this is the thing that always makes people, because I don't eat dairy, but I do like a bit of cheese. Also, is cheese as bad as milk? Please say no, Jenny Fletcher.
Jenny Fletcher, it's not as bad as milk. But also, interesting phraseology, is dairy really that bad? The assumption is it is bad.
Of course.
And if you are lactose intolerant, you can't have dairy. You can have another type of milk called A2, which is from a different herd, which doesn't have the same genes, amazingly.
Wow.
Easier to find these days, so that's not a bad thing to do. I great believe in a little bit of what you fancy, and how much is too much? A lot is too much.
Of anything?
A lot of anything, precisely. Crisps. But if you decided you're actually having too much cheese and decided to cut that out, if you have one element in your diet that you're eating too much of and you cut it out, it can be liberating, but also, let's say cut it out is difficult. There's no reason to cut it out, and also for a lot of women, more women than men, but it does affect men, we have to remember that dairy is a really useful source of a highly absorbable form of calcium.
Good.
And so you do not want to enter perimenopause, menopause with bone density less than optimum.
And how would you measure your bone density? Asking for a friend?
I think, I don't know if Boots do it, but certainly labs can organise it. I don't know if they do. Yeah, labs can organise it very easily.
Okay, good to know. So no, have your pint of milk if you want it.
No, not a whole pot, one there.
I meant loosely. Okay, Nancy, biggest thing I can do to improve my health, other than the obvious of drink more water, sleep more, stress less, eat more vegetables, less processed foods, etc. So nutritionally, the biggest thing you can do to improve your health.
Is that Nancy?
That is Nancy.
You just reduced my entire profession to 140 characters, 280 characters.
Well done, Nancy. You get the Big Pizza badge today.
Yeah, thanks. The biggest thing you can do, apart from eat well. Okay, boring though it is, if you follow the government guidelines, okay, which is not necessarily the food pyramid as it is, but if you follow the 30 grams of fibre, no more than how many is of free sugars, 5 a day, and I'll send you a list if somebody wants. You can make a note of that.
I'm going to take note of that, please, Daniel, and we're going to get it for the blog.
Okay. Then actually, they will make a significant difference.
Yeah.
But most people don't.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of boring mundanity that nutrition has become in a way.
Yep.
But what's the single biggest thing that you can do? Again, you see, that's an interesting, just thinking about your first question, which is we like to have a good and a bad, give me one thing. And
I'll tell you what mine would be if they asked me for their skin.
Yeah, what would it be? Sugar. It's interesting because someone sitting here 30 years ago might have said less fat, or no fat, or no saturated fat. Less sugar. Interestingly enough, I would say that if you do cut out sugar, or that you will be, it's a good thing to do, but learn your sugars. Don't have no refined sugar and then say, oh, I can have a garlic.
That's a question, so wait.
Okay.
That's a question. Okay, good. Okay. Are nutrients more likely to be preserved in fresh or frozen veg? I love Twitter questions.
Oh, I don't know that there's that much difference, but actually, as long as the vegetables are frozen very, very quickly, then they won't deteriorate. And although there isn't a great deterioration, I would say that frozen has the edge.
There you go. Okay, Janie, which supplements, if any, would you recommend for a newly vegan diet?
Newly vegan diet. Well, you need to look at protein. Protein is very difficult. B12, which is mostly made in the presence of intrinsic factor, therefore you need that with animal produce. You probably might need a B12 patch.
Okay.
But your B12, if you're just vegan, wouldn't necessarily be sort of dropping straight away. I would go to the GP, have your B12 tested, normally fine with iron, but it's your protein intake. If you are going to take a supplement, omega-3 is particularly difficult to get from a vegan diet. So, and you
flax,
can get flax. Alternatively, you can just go and buy some purslane from the garden centre, which is a weed, grows like that, and you can have that. So good.
You can also put it on your face in skincare.
And walnuts. Not walnuts on your face, but walnuts contain ALA, which is a first cousin of the sort of omega-3 fatty acids that we find in fish oil.
Is there any particular protein that you would recommend for a vegan? And what's their best way of getting it?
Some people, maybe in the early stages, well, actually not necessarily in the early stages, might go for a hemp protein powder.
Okay.
But you can get protein from nuts and seeds, some grains. Wheat contains protein.
Yeah, you've noticed it's all sold as turkey, isn't it?
Yeah, yes. Well, muscle.
Exactly.
So you can get it, of course, from legumes as well.
Okay, and on that note, legume. I prefer it to veggies.
Oh, I hate veggies.
I hate veggies almost as much as I hate moist. As a woman.
I hate veg.
I'd rather have veg than veggies.
Well, I've got three worst words, one of which is unrepeatable on air, but one of them is veg and carb, which is terrible in my profession.
It's when you always see an article written about what so-and-so ate in her diet and looking in a fridge, and you know that bitch has cleared that fridge of Krispy Kremes the day before. And she it's like this the day before, and it was basically it's like lean protein and veggies, and I'm like, can you just say vegetables?
Well, it's a funny thing that it's a more serious note than that. To me, it's this way that nutrition and health is infantilized. It's made puerile.
Fair enough.
And that, in a way, takes away from the profession and takes away from the people
how
who have studied
it is.
Yeah,
clearly. On another note, kind of linked to veganism, but not for me. Soy.
Yes.
Give us your sort of overview on soy, especially again for women who may have certain hormonal fluctuations.
If you've got, again, that is something for a dietitian, nutrition therapist, depending on where you are in cycles. We have to remember that soy products help, one of the elements that help reduce LDL, unwanted cholesterol, not unwanted, but the cholesterol we need to keep in check. So that's quite useful. Soy is a good source of protein for vegans and vegetarians. Yeah. You need to watch how much you have, perhaps, but I think it's a very valuable food. If you have any worries about estrogen receptors, etc., go and see a professional.
Right.
Get individual advice on that.
Got it. And I will also link below to Ian's suggested where you can find that where you live.
Okay.
You're going to give me that? You don't know it yet, but you are. Is there any benefit to taking expensive MLM nutrition products, e.g. Juice Plus, Thrive, Forever Living, Aloe Vera, etc.? I don't know what they are, so I thought I'd ask you.
Multi-level marketing, is that it? Without necessarily dissing any of them, they're no better than anything else. They're quite good value. Okay. But again, look to food. Get your nutrients in food. Some people say with a Juice Plus that you get 50 nutrients, whatever, in a capsule, therefore you wouldn't be having that much elsewhere. It's a good point, and I don't necessarily know the formulation of Juice Plus or aloe vera, etc. They can be quite good value, but you are sometimes it's quite evangelical.
Right.
So you need to watch that.
A lot of the diet industry is evangelical, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, best place now. I'm going to finish on supplements with here because there are loads, because obviously we've been sold them. Best place if people are going to buy supplements, best place to get supplements, what to look out for when buying them online.
Okay. I will give you a list for your blog of the terms to look for and the terms to avoid. Pretty rare that you find them these days because the supplement industry is quite well regulated. The EFSA...
Is it well regulated?
European foods... Well, they are, but so many are imported as well. European Food Safety Authority have 256 nutrition and health claims. So whereas before you might have seen something saying this is rich in vitamin C or brimming with
now they have to be.
Now it will say high in vitamin C and then say what vitamin C
percentage.
Does. So you need to look for those claims because that says that the brand knows what they're doing. They are following regulations. Buying them online, if you go into a shop, bear in mind that person is selling you something. And the brand, online you're being sold something as well. again, go and see someone, spend 150 quid, 125 quid, get professional advice, be very precise. You will save that money in, I mean, you know, sometimes...
Not buying 55
Well, can I just tell you, there's something I call supplement guilt, which is you read something about supplement, you're convinced by the end of the article that you are going to drop dead unless you have, I don't know, selenium. So you go and buy selenium. And you get to the end of the first month and you've got sort of 3 or 4 left, and it was £26 because it was food state and it was really good bioavailability. And you get to it and you go, well, oh, do I need it? I'm still alive, so maybe it's worked, but it's made no difference. I can't see any tangible changes or improvements. So do you buy? And that's that guilt, that problem that you think, do I need it? Well, maybe I'll give it 3 months, and because you're not sure what you're looking for, you've forgotten why you bought it in the first place, whatever drove you to it.
Yeah.
So people end up with just a little bit left in loads of bottles, and that's the guilt, and that's partly why we continue to do things, because just in case, you'd hate to get to the end of your life and think, do you know, if only I've had the selenium,
I should have taken that selenium.
I had an extra week here.
Okay, here's the big one.
Okay.
Is there really any difference between sugar and all the fancy sugars people are using in recipes these days?
Okay, when you refine sugar, and some of the fancy sugars they're like first, second, third cousins, if you like.
Right.
By the time they have been dealt with by your saliva, by your hydrochloric acid, and they are in the intestines and they are interacting with gut bacteria, the differences are minimal, negligible. I've seen, I mean, like, people say, well, what about honey? It's got, yeah, it has got lots of benefits, but how much do you have?
Yeah.
If you're having enough to give you nutritional benefits, it's rich in minerals. You're having too much. It's like that pink Himalayan salt. It's rich in. How much are you having?
I like a lot of salt.
Okay, all right. Well, then maybe in your case, but
no, I'm not saying it's a good thing.
No. If you did a couple of weeks on zinc, by the way, a zinc supplement, and then people sometimes find that their taste buds are a little bit more sensitive.
That's my last vice.
Okay, so
last
one left.
I'm a salt addict.
Well, I think when you get to
I've got better.
Our age, a lot of things have gone.
It's all gone. I don't drink. I've never smoked. Don't drink anymore. Don't eat crisps anymore.
Think of all that salt you say.
So basically, don't spend a fortune on agave and manuka honey if you're going to have so much of it that you're already having a high level of sugar.
Well, don't have it. Don't be fooled.
Okay.
You could have some of them have some benefits, but they're not great. But you know, try and reduce your the desire for sweetness, or get used to less sweet food is another way of doing it.
Okay, gut.
Yes.
Is it the thing to be careful with? That's the question.
Yes. Oh, Lord, yes, absolutely. And it's interesting that, you know, guts on everyone's lips a couple of years ago, and more so now. The gut bacteria have a multitude of roles that we know some of, and I suspect there's a lot more to come. The way that fibre interacts with gut bacteria, sugars, proteins, other gut bacteria, so, you know, lactobacillus and bifidobacterium are all very well, but there's new species, new strains rather, being discovered all the time, and how they interact between them, and also not just those two, but there are so many others that you've got such if you like, I don't know, such not a monopoly, but you've got this bizarre amount there that their interaction could be slightly different depending if you introduced a new one.
Right.
So it's so different that we are nowhere near understanding it, but it's a big thing and we should be careful.
At least you say that.
Yeah.
We're nowhere near to understanding it.
No, absolutely not.
So what about things like pro and prebiotics? Give us a one-liner.
Okay, probiotics I think are a very good thing to take. Good quality probiotics don't need to be hugely expensive. Look for one that's got a range of bifidobacteria and lactobacillus. Prebiotics, I'm best to have fibre. Sometimes don't take a prebiotic in capsule form, or sometimes they can cause bloating and discomfort, which if you have IBS or bloating and discomfort, which is why you're taking a probiotic, that you may not necessarily want more prebiotics if they cause you bloating and discomfort.
Oh, I never knew that. There you go.
I mean, I once made Jerusalem artichoke soup, and I'll leave the rest. Don't.
Ooh.
Pain, discomfort.
Not attractive.
Like an idiot, I ate it, of course.
Of course. Well, you've made it. You're looking for all that as a waste. Okay. We hear so much conflicting information about eating pre and post 8 p.m. and certain food groups. What's the ideal situation? That's Kirsty, or is there an ideal situation?
I wrote in a book many years ago that you shouldn't have carbs after 8. I think you should reduce your carbohydrates.
Yeah, you weren't quite black and white.
I wasn't quite black and white, and I'm still not quite black and white about it. The idea is that your carbohydrates create glucose, that as it's in the evening, circulating glucose won't be used, therefore it has a higher chance of being turned to fat.
Yep.
I now understand, and this certainly wasn't clear then, not just to me, but that's not quite the case. And in fact, if you had lean protein, essential fats, plenty of fiber, a little bit of complex carbohydrates, if you eat consistently, then you should be fine. So don't worry about not eating after this or that. I mean,
and also, surely it depends on your sleep cycle as well. If you're someone who's a night owl and you're up till 2 a.m.,
yeah,
you might want to snack at 10.
Yeah, I when I'm writing a book, I get up ridiculously early because that sort of 4:30, because that 2 hours before
the day
starts is invaluable. It's quiet. I get a lot of work done. I might go to the gym after that. By 11, I'm ready for lunch. By 3, I'm looking forward to dinner.
Yeah,
so exactly. It depends what your cycle is.
Okay. Is being vegan as beneficial as people make it out to be?
I think it is much because of what you don't have as much as what you do have.
Fair play.
It's very good to have reasons to have vegan to do, obviously, to do with animal welfare. It's always a very personal decision, and I'm not. Some people can't imagine ever not eating meat, and then when they don't eat meat, they sort of feel good about themselves, possibly, and it's the right thing to do. Another element is that if you're going to start any plan like vegan, is to know why you're doing it and perhaps score your health. So, in other words, not your bad health, but just say, okay, I feel tired, 10 being all the time, 1 being never, and give yourself a score. 6 out of 10 I feel tired, 7 out of 10 I get breakouts, 3 out of 10 I get, I have a bad stomach. So you can actually see and gauge the changes, because otherwise you have this sort of, I feel better, but I'm not quite sure why. It's a bit vague.
So, but if you're doing it for ethical reasons, then you're onto a winner.
Absolutely.
Okay. Diets and supplements for hormonal and cystic acne. Now, this is a random, but it is one of the most asked questions. Is there anything you can do nutritionally if you have acne? And I would say there's 2 different types. There's hormonal at the beginning and the end. There's teenage hormonal acne.
Yeah.
And then there's adult acne that I got at 40, which was definitely related to hormones again, which is more the beard.
Yeah.
Rather than the forehead. No pressure.
No pressure. Gosh. You see, if it's to do with glucose levels and excess insulin, then yes, having combining your food groups, so lean protein, plenty of fiber, complex carbohydrates, so a little bit of grains if that's what you want, some essential fats, regularly and eating every 2.5 hours, small amounts. So instead of having your 3 square meals, you would have exactly the same amount, but smaller breakfast. Then, if you like, the leftovers.
So that you don't get a spike?
So you don't get a spike.
Right.
Now, that is linked to PCOS, polycystic ovaries, which, and there's the hormonal link there because insulin's a hormone. So it depends on where it's coming from, and that's the one that I would really go for. The rest.
PCOS is massive at the moment, and I don't mean that like, oh, it's a trend.
Yeah.
I just mean the awareness out there of it is huge.
Yes, absolutely. I've known some people get great benefit from taking a probiotic and having probiotic foods. The sauerkraut, miso soup, kefir, for instance. But it's all individual. Go and see a nutritionist. Don't necessarily go and see someone who maybe doesn't know what they're talking about when it comes to diet.
Okay. What is the actual role of macronutrient imbalance in chronic disease? Why is a low-fat diet still being pushed and considered healthy when evidence regarding the role of processed and simple carbs is suppressed? Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah, well then it's the assumption there is that the evidence is being suppressed. Therefore you've got an opinion already. I can't answer a question like that. It's already, it's a loaded question.
There you go.
Sorry, I mean, I'm happy to. I would say that okay,
let's do the first part. What is the actual role of macronutrient imbalance in chronic disease?
Low protein, you need all your macronutrients, and I think in nutrition they are often overlooked, and when they're talked about it's kind of seen as sports nutrition or a little bit dull. Shouldn't we be talking about gluten? So you need a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of fiber. We eat on average 18 grams of fiber a day, we need 30. You need a certain amount of essential fats. Again, they're overlooked. A low-fat diet tends to mean higher carbohydrates because the fat in processed food is
what they pushed in the 80s.
Well, that was government policy. I mean, it started back in 1955, but that became government policy eventually. So, and also we charge the food industry, which is a private industry. It's not it's not a charity, to give us less fat and still retain the flavour. And so they put sugars in. So I'm not saying they shouldn't have done, but you can see how it happens. And salt. Yeah. You can see how it happens.
I just had a similar conversation again, relating it in terms of skincare, but only in, obviously, there was something online, I think it was on Instagram, and someone was saying, how can we get rid of plastic? We have to get rid of plastic packaging in skincare. And people were jumping in saying, yes, you would have to do it. And then I said, well, here's the problem. Glass is more expensive. None of you want to pay more. There's a current race to the bottom in skincare. Yes, it would be fantastic if we could put skincare in glass, because we know, for example, if you've got a really good oil, it's better in glass. You know, that nothing seeps. But it's heavier to ship. There's more cost involved. They break easier. If you drop your plastic bottle on the floor, you can grab it. If you drop a big jar of cream and it splits, you're going to come back to their brand and say it broke.
I know.
So everybody wants this, but they're only willing to do this.
Well, a lot of people are, I find, when it comes to fats, for instance, and good fats and good food, a lot of people are happy to pay. But I live in London, and it's a little bit of a bubble. So, you know, people and people will say, well, why don't they do that? Well, it's all very well, but when I do speaking tours, not necessarily in an urban situation, you've got an entirely different audience who maybe have different aspirations, and also they can't afford it. They can't afford it, and they're not obliged to. But just the second part of that question, which I would like to address, the idea that information about simple and processed carbohydrates is suppressed. I don't think it's suppressed. I think it's right there. I think there's a tension and huge arguments online between formal dietetics, for instance, and I'm not a dietitian, but a formal dietetics and the low carb, high fat movement, and it's an ongoing rumbling conversation, and it gets very personal very quickly. You know, people accusing each other of being fat or in the shill of something, or the pay of this. So no, I don't feel that any papers are being suppressed, but if they're being suppressed from me, I wouldn't know.
Fair point. Okay, superfoods, fad or fact?
I once wrote years ago, and I'm pleased I did, although I wish I'd been credited, that the definition of a superfood is any food with a publicist.
I love that!
And I know I've been quoted, and I'm very pleased to have been quoted, but it's absolutely true. There's no such thing as a superfood. It's a marketing tool and a useful one, and the EFSA since 2014 or 2013 do not allow the use of the word superfood. And the ASA and the Trading Standards Office, if they're noticed or they're alerted, will have a word with that brand. Yeah, he'll come take away your elders.
Oh, that's good. Yes. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they will come and talk to you about your use of superfood.
Stop using it as a superfood.
Anything that implies a superfood, because you can't just say because there are rules and regulations there. If it's a superfood because it contains more vitamin C per 100 grams than any other food, then you can say rich in vitamin C.
Yeah. Why call it a superfood?
But you're calling it a superfood specifically because you don't want to make the claims, maybe because it doesn't have those.
Okay. Well, if we do top of my head, blueberries.
Rich in polyphenols, rich in vitamin C, but is it a superfood? No.
Okay. Broccoli.
Glucosinolates, yes, you can say rich in glucosinolates, and
but well, it wouldn't mean anything to me in the supermarket.
Yes, so you could argue that superfood, therefore, should you be able to say it if it contains a certain level of certain nutrients? No, but you can name the nutrient if it's an allowable claim. But if you could use the word superfood? Yeah. What food wouldn't you put it on? I mean, coffee is rich in antioxidants.
Yeah, I don't like coffee though. Can it not be tea?
Green tea.
No, tea. Black tea.
You name a food that's not. Haribos.
Crisps.
Crisps. All right, we've seen many of them.
Okay, the best foods for energy.
I find that eating consistently is very important. So keeping glucose levels balanced. There are health claims around iron, magnesium. I can't remember all the nutrients off the top of my head, but most nutrients are involved in the normal production of energy. B vitamins specifically, iron is very important. But sometimes, lack of energy can be related to so many things. Yeah. Adrenal problems, don't assume it's just food. That's not really a good answer.
No, well, it's factual.
Yeah.
Can my body take all the vitamins from a smoothie, or should I eat the fruits raw?
You can absorb all the nutrients, certainly. Do you need that many nutrients, and can you use them? Not necessarily. I'm not sure you can eat all the fruits raw, get sore jaw. But smoothie is very good, but obviously in breaking down the fibre, you're speeding up the digestive process. So the difference between a processed food and a smoothie is nothing. It's also processed. Processed means part of the digestive process has happened for you. So for instance, white flour, it's been milled, so some of the fibre is missing. Well, why would you eat a smoothie that has got part of the fibre is broken down for you? You want to chew. You want that fibre.
Okay. We're going to finish on this because I know we're running over, but I think we're going to get you back.
Okay.
No pressure. But this is a funny one from Nikki, who says, what's your favourite biscuit?
My favourite biscuit? Well, I'm celiac, so I go for gluten-free biscuits, which means
But
Florentine.
you're a real celiac.
I'm a proper, real, card-carrying, biopsied one, yes. Easy, no question. Florentines.
Florentines.
Absolutely love Florentines. The dark chocolate ones, there's a salted caramel one now. Yes.
So, okay, well, before I lied, we're not going to finish on that. What would be your last meal? Death row, last meal. You haven't got to worry about the heart disease.
No, not at that point, you're right. What would it be? It would be ribeye steak, lots of mayonnaise, triple cooked chips.
Oh, triple cooked chips.
And sticky toffee pudding afterwards. With extra caramel toffee, is it caramel or toffee sauce? And a bottle of red wine.
Pinot Noir?
Yeah, Pinot Noir.
Mine, we had ours when I was in California. The Chateau Marmont has fried chicken Sunday.
Really?
Ooh. Fried chicken.
There's chicken wings at one restaurant in just off Tottenham Court Road. Can I have those to start?
Okay. Can I have a starter?
All right, okay.
Your starter for 10?
Yeah.
Because you're going to be dead soon anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And I eat all of them. I'd be like, oh, I'll save some for later.
Yeah, I'm going to save them for later. I need to get these in now. Chow down. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking me.
I don't know if any of it flowed. We will find out. We will definitely have you back, because what happens is there'll be 4,000 comments, people either arguing with you,
okay, so
which I'm looking forward to that, or more questions based on what you've said.
Okay.
So thank you for joining us. Enjoy your Easter eggs.
Thank you.
I'm going to put this up definitely on Easter Sunday.
I won't be having an Easter egg.
No.
No, I've got work to do that weekend, and
Any excuse.
Any excuse.
I'm going to have some chocolate. I'm going to have a Caramac. I love a Caramac. It's pure trash.
Really?
And if you're American, you won't know what it is. It's Jesus' gift to chocolate. As I always say, the potato is Jesus' gift.
Yes.
In all its formations.
Yes.
But not crisps anymore.
No, not
okay. I'm going to get sued by the crisp industry.
Well, for dropping them you would have done, for not eating as much. Then this is the difference then.
Thank you so much for joining us. Have a lovely Easter.
Thank you.